giant orange records.
Oh, hey. Well, hey, let's look at some of these garage rock records that I've acquired so far this year. Some recent acquisitions, and I say recent, I got this one back in February at the Orlando Record Show. Here are the Sonics. This is an awesome record. This is the 1980 Etiquette reissue, which Discog says it's unofficial, but supposedly it's from a box set and it was pressed at the Monarch pressing plant. This thing sounds really, really good. And you know what's weird is I drove 2 hours to Orlando to get this record and, you know, a couple of other things. But the guy that I bought it from, Jeff Pearson, lives within like 20 minutes of where I live here on the Treasure Coast of Florida. Anyway, this cover, it's kind of dark and kind of hard to look at, but man, this record sounds incredible, and it costs a fraction of what an original costs, and it sounds really, really darn good. And, you know, one of my favorite garage rock bands, or a more modern band, is the Ar-Kaics. They put out a new album this year. This just came out, I believe, in May 2024. Maybe it was the end of April, something like that. This one is called See the World on Fire. It's a little bit of a different album for the Ar-Kaics, but, you know, it's still really darn good. They put this one on orange vinyl. I got it off of their Bandcamp page, and I would recommend supporting this band if you like the classic 60s kind of garage rock, although I'll say these songs are a little bit longer and a little bit more in-depth than the previous Ar-Kaics releases, but new music from the Ar-Kaics, I'll take that any day. And speaking of awesome new releases from modern garage rock bands, the Losin Streaks, Last House, man, this came out in maybe February or something like that. And you can't see it here, but this is a blue vinyl. Holy crap, these guys are from Sacramento, California, and boy, do they rock. They've been a band for at least 20 years or so, and it really shows. They play a lot of really awesome, like, garage rocky kind of guitars and instruments and vintage looking stuff. But all that aside, this is a very impressive record. There's a couple surf rock songs, a couple like classic 60s garage inspired music. But what I'll say is the music is really interesting from start to finish. A friend of mine gave me some fanzines, garage rock fanzines from the 80s from England. I looked at some of the ads in there and looked up some of the bands in there. So I picked up this Denver Mexicans LP off of Discogs. And I mean, this thing only costs like $3 or $4 and it's in near mint condition. And I will say the Denver Mexicans is probably a pretty politically incorrect name for this day and age. But this came out in like the late 1980s. They're very like Jimi Hendrix-y kind of sounding, but with a garage rock type of thing to it. And like, this is really cool. This came with it, the Denver Mexican Fan Club. Look at this t-shirt, man. Like, I would order this t-shirt today if I could. I mean, that is some crazy, like, sort of like satanic looking rock and roll voodoo stuff going on there. But man, this is a really, really enjoyable record. It's just called the Denver Mexicans. It's super cheap. Here's another reissue, the Soft Boys album. I'd never heard this one, Next Door Land, until recently. This was reissued on gold vinyl this year. I got it from their Bandcamp page. And look at that cool gold record. This was a Soft Boys reunion record. Now, Underwater Moonlight from 1980 is one of my favorite psychedelic punkish records. And this one came out in like the early 2000s, but I guess I missed it when it came out. But it is, I would say this is among the best Soft Boys albums. It's a little different. Songs are a little bit longer. There's about 9 songs on this record. But man, if you love Robin Hitchcock, which I absolutely do, this is a must-have, and it should still be available here in mid-2024. And now I say let's give some love to the 7 inches. As a very late Christmas gift, one of my friends and bandmates gave me this Jacuzzi Boys EP or single called The Pits and Offended. I really love the Jacuzzi Boys. They're from Miami, Florida, and I've been a fan of theirs for a very, very long time. This single came out in 2020 on Third Man Records, and gosh, I saw them play it live in Jacksonville in early 2023, and I was like, The Pits. I was just thinking, like, what is this song that they're playing? Because I know most of their catalog pretty well, and I couldn't quite place it, but The Pits is a great song from the Jacuzzi Boys. Kind of has that sort of angular, kind of rhythmic thing, very like post-punk sounding. Really enjoyable stuff. Earlier this year, back in January, I went over to Immokalee, Florida, to the Rockabilly where I saw Deke Dickerson and a whole bunch of other great live bands, and while he didn't play Blind Rage and Violence that day, it was Deke and the Whippersnappers, which is more like a big country cowboy hat, suit and tie kind of thing. He did have this for sale at his merch booth, which is Blind Rage and Violence is basically Deke Dickerson's tribute to Link Wray, which I saw in Orlando at Will's Pub many years ago. Except these are some original songs that he wrote for that project, and he wears like a little black ski mask when he does that. I would say if you ever get a chance to see Blind Rage and Violence, it totally changed my perspective on how I see Link Wray's guitar playing. I used to think it was like really simple, stupid, easy peasy rock and roll, but no way, like that stuff is super complicated and crazy and awesome. Here's another new one from 2024 that was reissued. It's called Bodysnatchers. They were a late 70s punk band from Austin, Texas. And this is a little test pressing that was put out on, I guess it was put out on Third Man Records. This is like a mini LP slash super long EP. There's quite a handful of songs on here. And really not a lot of information on this band, except supposedly they had 2 bass players or something. One bass player played lead bass while the other bass player played rhythm bass. I don't know. Anyway, it's just called Bodysnatchers. Pretty interesting, kind of like Stooges type punk rock. Then I found this one at my local record shop, Ty Segall's Mr. Face EP. This one comes with like 3D glasses and whatever. Like one of the records. It's a EP, but it's just a couple of singles. One is blue and one is red. Anyway, this is actually one of my favorite Ty Segall releases. It's got Mr. Face, Circles, Drug Mugger, and The Picture. It came out in 2015. I remember downloading this on, I don't know where I got it from, but you know, back when we used to have like MP3 players and flash drives that you could put in your car. This is one that I spun a lot. I'm really happy that I finally got it on vinyl. And here is a Surfrajettes 45. I just saw them in West Palm Beach this May 2024. They played with the Reverend Horton Heat. Wow, the Surfrajettes really, really impressed me. They recommended that I get this 45 from them, which has their original song, Bonsai Pipeline. Really cool artwork designed by Scott Sugiuchi. And if you'll see, here is the Surfrajettes LP. I got all 4 of them to sign that for me, and this is actually a this variant. This color is a tour-only variant pressing of it. Super fun show. They man, they really blew my mind with their surf rock impressions. And so I've got to say, it took me a while to catch on to Frankie and the Witch Fingers. Here's their LP called monsters eating people eating monsters. Really pretty, like, aggressive, punky garage rock. I think this is on, like, a super fun color, like Frankie and the Witch Fingers green or something like that. Really cool stuff. They do, this band is just on point, and my buddies from Psy Goodies, with the Psy Goodies Dude, are really involved with them. There's a little pen called DOOD that they made, which, yeah, man, good stuff, good times. Then I found this Acapulco Gold. That is the name of the album. The band is called The Rainy Days. I think they were from Colorado or something like that. I think this came out in like 67 or something like that. It's actually a really cool album cover. That's what caught my eye. And it's very good garage rock, kind of frat rock record almost. There's a couple like silly covers on it, but overall, it's a pretty good release. The first song is called Absurd Bird. How could you go wrong with that? They cover the Four Tops, Baby I Need Your Lovin'. They cover Knock on Wood and Shake, and then there's a song called The Acapulco Gold, which is probably, I would guess, about things that are legal in Colorado in 2024 that were probably not legal in Colorado in 1967. And it's just kind of a fun, colorful, happy-looking album cover. Then, holy crap, I found this one called the Birdwatchers. They were a band from South Florida in the 60s. And I guess this got reissued in about 1980 or so by a radio station out of Florida, and there's some liner notes from the DJ. It's kind of like folk rock, kind of birdsy, turtleish folk rock. It's pretty darn good, actually. Brain Telephone. This is the other Frankie and the Witch Fingers album. I mean, if you've seen this album cover once, you're never gonna forget it. I mean, Brain Telephone. What a genius piece of album cover artwork. A little late to the game on these guys, but man, what a fun band. I'd really love to go see them sometime. And then, oh boy, here's the Fugs debut. These were some sort of New York, Greenwich Village, I don't know, comedians, really. Like, this stuff is just out there. And, you know, Kill for Peace, that song basically tells you where they were at. Very, like, sarcastic, clever kind of lyrics. One of the weirder things I've picked up this year is We're All Normal and We Want Our Freedom. This is a tribute to Arthur Lee and Love, but it's on 3 LPs, and I believe this came out in the early 90s. I mean, these are 3 like EPs. They're all kind of this green and yellow thing. A lot of it is not all that great, but the stuff that is great makes this worth seeking out in my mind. My absolute favorite version on here is A Message to Pretty by David Kilgore, who was in the band The Clean, and Martin Phillip. Anyway, they were definitely part of the Flying Nun records from New Zealand. And in the meantime, I also got this very, very clean original pressing of Love's Forever Changes. It's a stereo copy on Elektra from 1967. They had this at my local record store, Sounds Good Music, and I couldn't pass it up. While like I do have a really good sounding modern reissue, I just had to get original. It's such an inspiring record, and while the collector in me wants to get the mono version, I will say the stereo version of this is incredible. I think this one cost me about $40, which ain't bad at all. It's like a steal compared to the internet or other record stores. While I was in Charleston over the holidays, I saw a record store had this album, an original in G+ condition, which is not very good, for like $90, which is more than double what I paid for this. And I would say this is like VG+, bordering like near mint. And while we were at it, we might as well get the original first debut album from Love. from 1966. If it came down to it, I would say this is my absolute favorite Love album. I had a copy of this, an original mono, which is also what this is. But my mono copy was a bit scratched up. I think I got it on eBay a while ago, and it only cost like $10. This one was probably more like $35. That's what the sticker says here. But man, what a fantastic album. If I had to go to a desert island and take 10 albums with me, this would definitely be one of them. And here's, I believe, the first Black Lips record. This was reissued at some point on Bond Records. I think I paid like $9 or $10 for this at Wax Records in Vero Beach. And then in March, I got to see the Black Lips perform for the first time I'd ever seen them at Respectable Street in West Palm Beach. They put on one heck of a show. I mean, I could not believe how good this freaking band was. I got some of the band members to sign the front and the back. It's definitely on the grittier side of the garage revival. I think this came out in 2003 or something like that. And then, who could forget the Lemon Pipers with Green Tambourine? And while that is a really cool song, it's like one of those that gets compiled on all these greatest hits of the 60s kind of thing. It's actually a really cool song. It's a little bit overlooked. It gets lumped in with the bubblegum category, which I think is kind of unfair. That song came out in 1966. I believe this album was from 66 or 67. And the strange thing is, like, there's some songs on this album that are absolutely horrendous. Like, the first song on the album is called Rice is Nice. It's sort of like a really cheesy wedding bubblegum type song. I would just skip right over that one and go through the rest of the album. But then side 2 almost sounds like a completely different band. They're very, like, proggy and crazy, like guitar rock in the vein of like Cream or Hendrix, or just kind of way out there stuff. So quite a range of music on here. You could get this one for probably less than $10 on most days. Who would have thunk the Music Explosion, a little bit of soul. These guys are kind of like a frat band. I mean, these guys look like kids. If you look at this album cover, they're like, are they in high school? Are they like 15 years old, maybe? They might have been a little bit older than that, but this is a pretty fun, great little like frat party record, which this band was like, this record is surprisingly good for what it is. I believe this came out in like 65 or 66, something like that. And then, just as a little bonus here, I got a couple heavy rotation garage albums that everybody should have. This is the Kinks' second album, Kinka Kinks. This is the Pye 1980 mono reissue. It came on this little like black and white label here. Really, really cool record. The fidelity of this is insane. And one of my absolute favorite Kinks records. I love all their 60s stuff, but this thing's really good from start to finish, and it shows you how good of a songwriter Ray Davies was way back then. I mean, Look For Me, Baby, Got My Feet on the Ground, Nothing in This World Can Stop Me, Worried About That Girl. That was in the movie Rushmore. Tired of Waiting, Wonder Where My Baby Is Tonight. And they do a cover of Dancing in the Street, which is pretty darn cool. Come On Now, Something Better Beginning. So this gives us the original UK track listing. Very, very good. These Pye 1980 reissues are really good, and they're about a fraction of what an original 60s pressing would be. And then the last one we got here, this is the Nude Party's debut album. Man, this is some good garagey goodness. Me and my son saw this band in 2023. They're such a fun live band. This is the orange vinyl pressing. And yeah, they just kind of get that like classic fun party garage rock. It's almost like frat party. They just get very pleasing sounds, very enjoyable listens. They don't go too far out there, but I'd say that's a good thing because it's just such a fun time, this record. And if you haven't heard the Nude Party, it's a great place to start. They've got 2 other albums out, which are also really good, but this is kind of the one that I keep coming back to.
Giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange.